I use a lot of different AI tools and models, but I mean, if there's one I had to like pitch my tent on, I would pitch it on Cloud Code. So I think the pattern will switch, especially in technology, towards consolidation, towards one platform vendor.
All of us are having to adopt AI, whether we like it or not.
When different people in this chain adopt AI differently, it makes things better or worse.
AI capabilities have improved at a fast pace, but the capability improvements do not immediately translate into adoption. It's a pleasure to have you here, Sudarshan. It's a great day. So many things changing. What did you have for breakfast?
I've been doing intermittent fasting since Jan 1st this year.
Okay.
The exciting thing as a result of that is my first meal is like something that I really cherish and enjoy. So today it was sabudana khichdi and my wife makes the most amazing chai to get my day started. So what about you? What did you have?
I had rava idli with aloo sagu.
Nice.
More interesting question is, was it done on gas stove or induction?
SaveDosa.com. Huh? So we are very, very privileged. We have piped natural gas showing up at our house in Mumbai. It not only powers our food but also heating. Though it's so hot in Mumbai right
You
now.
need heating in Bombay.
I know. Though it is so freaking hot in Mumbai right now, you don't need it. You know, the sun does its job. So I think we are a lot more privileged than most of the other cities that rely on cylinders. I don't think we'll face that problem yet.
Yet being the keyword, right?
Yes, the world is changing way too fast across so many dimensions. Who would have guessed that a random war in West Asia is going to affect people and their breakfasts and their livelihoods in India, and when we have nothing to do with the war. So it just shows you how interconnected everything is.
And 6 years ago was COVID. The first notifications were coming out this month, last month. It's amazing to think that 6 years have gone.
And I feel so grateful because you guys at Upekkha drove that fear into us about what COVID is, right? And you shook us so hard that I remember that I think it was 14th or 15th March, I was in office. People were complaining when I said tomorrow onwards, Monday onwards, you have to work from home. They were like, but I can't work from home. I have to come to office. That was the conversation, right? And I was like, nothing doing. We have to go. The good thing, because of the warnings you guys gave us, was that people were able to get home before the lockdown happened. And then in hindsight, they told us, oh my God, nobody ever imagined this. And honestly, none of us imagined it. So very grateful. Yeah, I think you played a significant role in helping us all keep our colleagues safe. It's very underrated. I think people only know the people who leave, but this was life and death. So really appreciate it.
I also remember that many folks were able to, buy stuff for their homes, right?
Correct.
Workspaces and things like that, right? Which otherwise would have been much harder a week later or 10 days later or whatever it was.
At that time, nobody knew it was 7 days. Huh? At that time, nobody knew. The world changes.
So we're, heading into or already in the same kind of disruption. There was this post a couple of months ago that everybody's been talking about. But it's still very early days yet. I don't think the world has woken up. I don't think enterprises have woken up as much. I don't think adoption is there yet. And the only good thing this time is that unlike a virus which spreads by itself, somebody has to adopt AI for it to become useful, right? And so humans in some way control the valve. Although my mentor and friend Simon Wardley, he likes to speak of the Red Queen's race. So in Alice in Wonderland, there is a Red Queen and Alice is trying to figure out what's going on. And the Red Queen says, in this place, to stay in the same spot, you have to run as fast as you can. So then Alice is running as fast as she can. And then she's like, okay, now if I want to go somewhere, where do I go? How do I do that? Because I'm already running as fast as I can. And so if you have to go somewhere, you have to run even faster.
Correct.
That's the nature of competition among companies, which then delivers dividends in the forms of consumer surplus to the companies that buy from those companies. Because if you're all as businesses running as fast as we can, that surplus either has to go to our customer, ourselves, or our vendors. And our vendors also have cutthroat competition. They also are in a Red Queen's race. Right? So all of us are in that Red Queen's race. All of us are having to adopt AI, whether we like it or not. Maybe at different speeds in different industries and different rates of diffusion. It's inevitable, right? So before we go into more, how do you use AI every day? What do you find it useful for? How has your view of AI changed over the last 3-4 months?
I remember sending a note to my investors in which this is when the IT stocks crashed, telling them that being a founder in the AI era is like dancing on a shaking table in a boat in rough seas. The only thing you can do is enjoy the dance. So, for me personally, I think I oscillate between two states. I oscillate between being an excited kid of how much more you could do with AI to being a very paranoid parent that if we don't do enough and we don't do it fast, we won't exist. But what's most exciting for me is how much we can actually move the needle for our customers, for their businesses. And from the very beginning, right, we always wanted to deliver customer success, right? Like if somebody trusts us with money, we have to take them to success. And the hardest part in that oftentimes is as a product, there will be gaps. And now we realize that, hey, we can actually personalize it to every environment very tightly. And if we can do that, then you know what? We can ensure a far more frictionless experience. And personally, I am a fan. I think once I'm a fan of something, I just, I keep bothering everybody about it all day. 4 months back, I think I went from like, oh, I know this is great, this is going to change the world, to, oh man, this is really changing my world every day, right? So, I mean, I use it actively for everything. In the confines of what is securely possible is where I operate, but I can't go back to a world without AI anymore, right? So, and I've been very hands-on because ultimately, if I'm responsible for making an entire, like, so we serve talent acquisition. If I'm responsible for making that function AI native, if I'm not hands-on and don't know what AI native is, then, how do I shape that community, that function, right? So I've been at it for a few years, but last 3, 4 months, I've realized the significant jump in model capabilities, right?
So, what's one thing that you won't be able to live without that you use with AI?
I live on the Cloud Code terminal. I'm a big fan. And we've set the right guardrails up, and now we are in a position where I love to measure data. So I think the improvement in what would take us weeks to hours is very evident for us. So it's very exciting as well. Speed of propagation is the key, which is, I think, what most companies do. And the larger you are, that's a harder problem to get more people to get on and do it in a consistent manner. I use a lot of different AI tools and models, but I mean, if there's one I had to like pitch my tent on, I would pitch it on Cloud Code. For today, with AI,
For today?
you don't know what's going to change tomorrow. As of today, as of this morning, big fan.
Absolutely.
Big fan.
Absolutely, right. The pace is just brutal, right? The pace is just insane. And I'm loving it as well. I've been in cloud psychosis for a few weeks, couple of months on the cloud code train as well. But on the other side, right, when the capabilities have been improving for a while, and of course the November jump has been significant, but adoption is still not something that translates into immediately. So capability improves, but it doesn't immediately translate into adoption. How do you see that happening in the markets that you serve, which is primarily HR tech leaders, CHROs, VP hiring, VP talent acquisition, all of those kind of folks?
I think when you serve enterprises, they have a lot more restrictions on what you can do or what access you have. Their view of the world is shaped by two things, actually, three things. What is their leadership telling them? Second, what do they experience? Like, what access do they have? Like, for example, I don't know how many enterprises today allow access to Cloud Code, and for very rightful reasons, right? See, a smaller company, which is a product company, which is a startup, startup founders have very less to risk.
AI capabilities have improved at a fast pace, but the capability improvements do not immediately translate into adoption. In your market, in the HR tech space, CHROs, HR leaders, where has AI actually changed their behavior? What difference do you see a few years ago to last year to now?
See, I think our HR often gets a bad rep. And talent acquisition, actually, if you think about it, is a very important function in any company. Every single hire that is put out there is put to improve either top line or bottom line. So it is a very strategic role. And the biggest challenge that I see is that there are two, three good things that have happened. Okay. First is 3 years back, 2 years back, boards were telling CEOs. And now, last year, CEOs were telling functions, right? Now, functions are themselves very clear that, hey, no, we have to be AI native, right? The other good thing that happened is their dissonance with their existing stack has increased so much. So that's a clear challenge as well. Definitely, there is a greater need to switch, but they're also hit with another side of problem. What happens when building becomes ridiculously easy is they get hit with hundreds of players, each of whom claiming they can change the world. And what happens is they don't want to change the world. They want to really deliver, like, you have to understand what success means to an enterprise, right? So the problem statement I see, and this is especially true for a lot of startups, is in their desperation to kind of get some business, they often promise the moon. And the moon, while it is possible in your environment, is not necessarily possible in an enterprise. And somebody out there is putting their neck out. So it is extremely important that you commit right. So I expect that while there be a lot of dissonance, one of the things that they will deal with or struggle with is some of them will get burnt by new age players claiming that, hey, we are new age, hence because this is a new market, you go with new age. But that dissonance and that lack of maturity will hit. But how is the buyer? Buyer is enthusiastic. They completely understand.
Nice.
They love AI, so there is no question in their head on, hey, AI is useless, right? I think that's not the problem. Problem is, who do I trust? Who will take me to success? And the people who get that right are the people who will see the next wave of success. And unfortunately, in HR tech, and it's true for most markets, it's actually true for pretty much most of the world. Most people are marketing and sales led, so they will sell anything versus deliver the right thing. Right? So that's the balance that's true for enterprises.
So, a couple of years ago, 2, 3 years ago, if you had gone to these folks and said, hey, let's have some AI in HR and things like that, the kind of use cases that you would have spoken about then versus last year to this year, they must have changed a lot. Can you give us a arc of what AI or ML was being used a couple of years ago to now?
So actually, Prasanna, we were actually using AI for a while. So our product had AI, right? And let's understand the HR tech landscape, right? So if you divide HR into tactical actions versus strategic thinking, right, on one axis, and you kind of map out functions on where they exist, right? Like for example, L&D, it's not a tactical action. Like if you strategically think about where it is, you can do tactics in it, but you have to think about, you have to really think about it, and it's very hard to show ROI. If you think about talent acquisition is extremely executional. You have to execute at a certain pace, right? And you have to align multiple stakeholders. So within the HR function, when I think about what has changed, I think people saw talent acquisition as a easy place. It sits at an intersection of three things: clear execution actions, painful but important problem, at the same time AI maturity far better than other portions of HR with ROI baked in. So the good part was openness within HR for talent acquisition technology and AI in talent acquisition technology is far more. Now, if I look at the arc of AI itself, I think nobody is impressed with simple note takers and answers anymore. Right? I think what has changed is what is the depth of thinking and what problem statements are you picking. Everybody in the West, right? So picked a problem statement of, I'll give an example, picks a problem statement of, and universally there are 100 startups that mushroom a day on this. How many jobs, who's the right match for that? Everybody understands it's a problem. So that was always like table stakes, right? Then over the last 2 years, I think the number of startups that mushroomed and the number of startups who approached us for acquisition in the interviewing space, massively high. Again, it looks like an easy problem that can be solved by AI versus it getting adopted by AI versus it generating revenue for you to sustain and build a business. So not so straightforward. And recruitment is an industry that has always relied on outcomes. So AI and outcomes is now being spoken about, but very different, right? It's very different in recruitment. It has always been outcome led from the longest time. You bring a hire, I'll give you 1 month salary, right? That was an outcome business to begin with. So it's not like we have to preach outcomes to TA leaders. They're born with outcomes. Plus, boss, what a buyer group. They negotiate salaries 5 times a day. Neither of us are going to negotiate at the rate at which they negotiate. So they're damn good at understanding economics, value, negotiation. Some of those things, our community is way ahead of the curve.
Where do you think today to 6 months from now, how do you think that arc will change?
I think a lot more actions will become autonomous. So if you think about the arc, See, we're already seeing a lot of actions going agentic, right? And by the way, it's very interesting. Everybody assumes AI makes things better. But in a multi-sided marketplace, recruitment is a multi-sided marketplace. For recruitment process to work in a company, if you are 50 people, 500 people, 500,000 people, there is always a hiring manager who wants a person. Then there is somebody who fills the job on their behalf. Then there is a recruiter who goes and hunts a person. Then there is a candidate, and there is a stream of candidates, each with their own asks and tastes. Basically, it's like a consulting problem where you're matching one candidate with one hiring manager and hoping to find the best fit. At the same time, you also have this case where in the middle there'll be some third party interviewers or your own interviewer, somebody will come and take interview. So when you have so many multi stakeholders involved in a process, one of the things that people don't realize is everybody assumes AI will make things better. But when different people in this chain adopt AI differently, it makes things better or worse. Like for example, last year, and just for context, right, for the audience, 86 million candidates hit our platform. Our lowest candidate experience is 4.7 on 5. Everybody assumes AI will make everything better. But candidates adopting AI faster than enterprises meant most enterprises had their funnels worsen. Because today, as a candidate, I can go press a button, my friction of creating a resume is gone. I can upload it in one click to hundreds of places. And agents will apply on my behalf everywhere. And write answers also, as if I have written them.
And the resume will be tailored to the job description.
Absolutely. Now the point is, that's why when hundreds of companies are working on the problem of job description to resume matching, I look at it and say the person who wrote the description wrote it with AI. The person who filled it based on what that person wrote on AI. Both of them, when they meet each other, dissonance happens. Right? How do you solve this? So I think...
or perfect resonance with all the candidates.
Amazing. Like suddenly so many people are a good fit, right? And at the end of the day, hiring is a trust problem. I have to trust you to come deliver for me, and I have to feel like jumping a career is not a quick thing, right? It's something I will take it seriously enough. When I get an offer, I'll go research, or if I'm in the US and I will research and then only decide even if I'm investing time. Different markets, different behaviors. So how do I see the arc change? It's actually fascinating. I think the whole multi-stakeholder problem always with each new wave of technology will get worse and then better, because of who adopts it faster. So, but yeah, most things will be more autonomous. Most things will be more agentic.
When things go autonomous, which parts do you think humans will continue to be responsible for in the hiring, the talent acquisition kind of a landscape?
In HR conferences, people talk about human touch. And they talk about human touch in the construct of giving somebody a feeling. And I remember having a conversation with a customer who's very visionary, very progressive. And one of the things he told me was, he said, Sudarshan, I want AI to solve, in his words, he said, I want to clean the gutter. Why? Because if I can clean the gutter, my team will focus only on the ones that matter. By that, what do I mean? If you can solve the problem of who's really not a fit, independent of the resume, because everybody on the resume is a fit, then naturally, as a recruiter, the human aspect will come on two things. How do I ensure my hiring manager has clarity? A lot of times people take 2 minutes to create a job description, but they don't spend 5 minutes thinking about who and what kind of person they want. And everything starts there. How can I be consultative? Because now I have access to a ton of data. How do I understand somebody's motivations better? Not skills and fit. So I can convince them to belong more and get them pumped to perform. How do I prevent fraud? Right? Because everybody is going to use the same tools on either side. Then how do I prevent fraud? How do I bring my negotiation skills to the fore, which is a very hard skill, to get the best bang for the buck? So I think AI will surface and feed those signals. What I think humans will have to still do is to bridge that connection aspect. Not that AI can't do it. AI can give a nice feeling. It can mass personalize. It can do all of that. But the point is, think about it, when everybody wishes happy birthday on WhatsApp, after a point, the value of the WhatsApp happy birthday is gone. The person who makes the phone call, that person has the benefit. I think that's the role smart humans will play, which is to make that extra, how do you show you're putting that extra effort to show that person you care, that you matter? That part, which is, because if I take all the effort away, then, your role becomes about that feeling, and not just that feeling, right? It's about trust. How do you be transparent and open about what are some problems they will face when they join? So you're not optimizing for somebody converting, you're optimizing for them staying. Right? Like, they're very different facets. a lot more human facets that I think humans will have to stay responsible for, because while the AI will make everything ridiculously easy, the human has to convince you, because it will make it ridiculously easy for everybody.
Amount of labor goes up, the amount of filtering has to go up, per capita trust goes down, because now you don't know this resume is what, right?
Correct.
And now even if I used to hand embroider my resume, is it going to stand out? I don't know.
Actually, it will make it worse. Somebody who's not using AI may actually end up being a disadvantage. And by the way, recruitment globally, so we are in about 50 countries now. If I understand global nuances, some markets are very low trust markets. So we've had to always solve for those. Interestingly, fraud is now a Eastern Europe problem. It's a US problem. These are all high trust markets. AI is also changing the trust score of markets, the behavior.
That's very interesting observation.
Because the one thing is guaranteed, right? Human quest for laziness and efficiency go hand in hand, right? Everybody who's lazy wants to be efficient, and everybody who's
I'm
efficient.
desperate. If I'm out of a job, I'm looking to get a job at the earliest. I'm going to take every advantage that I can get to do whatever it takes to get my resume, get an interview.
Correct.
That desperation can lead to something that's not okay, that crosses the line. But if it's just me personalizing my resume with AI to send it to many jobs, I don't see too much wrong in that as well, right? If I'm not like committing fraud in terms of overstating my qualifications or
Correct. But what are the guardrails? And if you do it for 1,000 applications, your intent may not be fraud, but LLMs are capable of personalizing it to an extent that you may no longer be that person. Not that you intend to. So I think that's where the difference will kick in. So I think the challenge is it's about different perspectives, right? So you're right. So candidate will, when I'm desperate. So by the way, it's not just that the number of lawsuits have increased. This is the labor market problem, right? So lawsuits in the US have already increased. And there are class action suits.
more lawyer jobs.
100%. Why? Because more people get out, so they want to see if bias is kicking in. If they want to make sure they're taking the necessary action. Treading that balance, right? Since we're talking in the context of an enterprise, is a very critical thing, because you're not bringing something just for efficiency. Let's say you bring efficiency, you bring so much change, and then you pay like millions of dollars in a lawsuit. That's reputational risk. That's a branding risk. That's a customer risk. It's far worse than the productivity gain. So it is not something that they treat lightly either, right? They all understand the seriousness of it, which is good.
Enterprises obviously always say, hey, I'm buying outcomes. That's what I would like to buy. And like you said earlier, HR tech or HR is used to buying outcomes in the form of paying for actual butts on seats, not for whatever steps before that. From an AI perspective, do you see people in HR tech moving towards more buying more outcomes, or do you see them paying for the tech like before?
HR tech was always about outcomes. And it's not HR tech. I think I have to classify this. HR tech is very broad. And it's not HR alone. Talent acquisition is a function within it, which is where my expertise is. And within talent acquisition, the market is already geared towards what is the outcome of the service and how will I pay. So a job board will charge you based on the resume and the view. A vendor will charge you on the basis of the hire, 1 month salary after the person joins and stays for 3 months, right? There are outcome rules baked in. So if you see, naturally, if somebody takes a voice interview, they will pay you for the number of voice interviews completed, right? So they're comfortable with that. Is that truly an outcome? Not really. But the market understands the different stages and the different segments. It's a fairly mature market, and the pricing aspects are fairly well established, right? So I don't think, because the market understands it, it's not like outcome is a new concept. The question is, what is the true outcome? Is it a hire? Is it a candidate? Is it a screened profile? Is it an offer? And as long as you're pricing it based on the service that you're delivering in that space, I think you're comfortable. Nobody's going to fight you on it. They understand it. That's the good part. They are buying AI capabilities and they do care about the outcome. They are not going to say, oh, I will buy tokens and let's see what happens. This is not marketing or,
Right. That's
sales.
consumption, though. Yeah.
Pure consumption will not work. It is consumption, but it has to be on the completion of something. Not, I'll spend on minutes and we'll see.
With this kind of an AI coming in, with this kind of a capabilities that are coming in, especially the new stuff, it's not yet hit market. It'll hit market in the next 3 months, 6 months, all that kind of a thing. What changes for the enterprise in terms of their outcomes, in terms of how they do things differently? That's one part of the question. And second part of the question is, what are you able to do today for an enterprise? Either was not valuable or was not possible before.
Let's take the example of an interview. An AI interview is the most commonly used product over the last 12 months, because lot of people gave free, and I'm part of the TA fraternity now. So I'll tell you, like every fraternity, TA fraternity loves free. So lot of startups gave 200 credits. Fine, everybody took those free credits. Everybody did lot of interviews, and everybody formed point of view. And many people said, "Oh, we are AI." But was that truly AI? Not really. And like in the AI SDR business, what started with like 60% adoption fell over the year. 28 to 30% people only took interviews from a candidate point of view. Fatigue, disinterest, not wanting to talk to an avatar, right? All those reasons. But from an enterprise standpoint, do they want to do AI interviews? 100%. But there are two key stakeholders that matter for a talent acquisition person. One is the external candidate who's not willing to jump. Second is the internal hiring manager. If you present, and they face this problem, right? Our customers, there are some business units which will lap onto this. Some business units, they will always have a human interview before the final offer is made. If that human continuously keeps rejecting because of their own biases, see, a lot of times what happens is in an interview, and this is human behavior, right? Last minute, somebody will get drafted for an interview. That
Right.
person doesn't know what the job is. They don't know who you are. They will start by saying, "Tell me something about yourself."
Yeah.
Everybody will
They
start.
need time to
They're
figure
reading.
stuff out.
Yeah, let me see. But the point is, they'll read the resume. Nobody reads the job to say what are the skills, what is required. Then what will they do? They will spend 30 minutes showing they know more than you. So it becomes a validation for themselves, not for evaluation against the job and a fit, right? But now if you throw in AI saying, hey, AI said it's a match, now somebody's ego gets hurt. So then in the second round, they will make sure that there are more rejections to prove that the tech, it's not the tech problem, right? Because it's very difficult to articulate and quantify. Now, this was a problem statement of less to do with technology. Everybody assumes technology is going to change the game. Of course, AI makes new things possible. But this is a classic change management, alignment problem, behavioral issue on both sides. And when you are the orchestrator who's sitting in between, these inefficiencies are the reason why TA will continue to exist. Because if these inefficiencies didn't exist, why do you need person to orchestrate? So the job of the TA, since you asked me earlier as well, is now going to be about making sure that these people are aligned. How do you make them look good based on the data you get, right? So they are more open to trying. What's possible before to now? If I continue the same example, now we have the ability to look through every interview across the entire funnel. So I know what you did in the interview. We can then give interviewer feedback, and now you can weed out bad interviewers versus good interviewers. Or
Then the candidate experience improves.
yeah, see, and that's a very hard problem for us, right? So I think our my lowest candidate experience is 4.7. So whether it's Silchar or Singapore or Silicon Valley. Now the problem is when you're at that 95th almost percentile, the problem is how do you ensure every customer beats that? It's like the Six Sigma problem. Getting to 80 is easy. When now we are consistently above 90. Now how do you consistently go beyond that to like the last 5 percentile, right? And it's not easy. So that's where I think we need every party to be correct and accurate and deliver, right? So that's what breaks it out. So what AI makes possible is we are able to now read through every interview. We're able to now understand. We are now able to coach. And sometimes people don't do it out of spite, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
They just were interviewed that way. It is Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahuti. Like they were interviewed that way. They think that's how interviews are. It's just that. Like they think,
Yeah,
oh, I'm supposed to grill and make that person miserable. When they go through a brilliant, they're like, oh, wow, oh, this is how interviews are. Then their worldview changes, right? So the ability to coach also becomes possible. And now, you have somebody who's in the room who can tell you how to coach or who needs coaching. All that data was not possible before, right?
brilliant.
So this is
Yeah,
the
I think this is a very interesting thing, right? Because a candidate's first experience of many companies is the interviewer, the interview room. It's a high stake, high pressure situation. Not the best place for somebody to put their business face forward. And invariably, interviewers mess it up, right? Like you said, most people don't have training. Almost nobody gets training to be an interviewer. I remember that in Amazon, there is a training actually to go to do. It's called Make Great Hiring Decisions. And I did that. And there are also people who are bar raisers who are expected to be like super interviewers.
correct.
And so the funny part was I was in Amazon not for too long, and we were trying to hire one more product manager parallel to me. And then I did about 50 interviews in a year to find one product manager.
Wow.
And we found one product manager. and we hired that person, and then I left. So now they had to backfill. But those interviews are a face of Amazon to a candidate who's probably interacting with somebody in Amazon for the first time ever. And depending on how that interaction goes, they will form an impression of the business Amazon. And it's a deeply personal, deeply high stress, high impact. It's a very crucial conversation.
Yeah, it is a very crucial conversation. Everybody wants to put their best foot, but there is a power imbalance. And people oftentimes don't recognize or realize, just because of various aspects, upbringing, past experiences, what they ate for breakfast that morning. Who knows, right? Like, what happened before? If I'm in the middle of a task, I'm irritated because I got pulled and I have to have this
Gas ran out.
conversation. All human things, right, which drive that. So, and I think ultimately that one aspect of one human evaluating before a person joins, I don't think will go away. So that, of course, the number of rounds and what you need to check, all that can compress. Who needs to check can also compress, but I don't know if I'm going to join a company just by talking to a machine. At this point, I can't visualize it. And I don't know if the company is going to be willing to put a lot of money on somebody without at least, having somebody inside talk. Who knows, it's a deep fake on the other end.
A lot of things get harder and harder, right?
Correct.
So maybe we'll just go into the last couple of questions, right? Like you said, HR or HRTA, all of them want to think of themselves as, hey, we are putting the people in the process. We are putting the touch of a human into the process. And that's where the value is getting created, unlocking kind of complex interactions between many different people and trying to like unblock it so that, things move forward and things like that. Right? So in that situation, what do you think that TA folks will be ready to pay for, and what do you think that they would love to like keep personal, or they would want to not do with AI?
Practically speaking, if you look at what does not change, I want a good quality hire who joins, stays, performs. I want that person fast and don't want to kill myself finding that person. 50 interviews to one over 12 months is killing yourself, because there must have been at least 500 to probably 1,000 who didn't get to there, and somebody did that. I think if I look at the structural shift, what AI is going to do is, I think the platform they choose to go to is going to drive the biggest difference on whether they're going to have hundreds of tools or whether they're going to stay in their current bit and then try 100 different things. Because what AI does is it gives you the ability to have consistent footprint of somebody through the entire journey, which is very different. So I feel like there is going to be one big shift from being tired of trying to worry and solve through hundreds of point solutions to now operating and orchestrating talent acquisition using a combination of people and agents, just one platform, right? So I don't have to deal with hundreds of tools. It's not like the tools, they result in more handoffs, right? They result in more work. And whereas going to one mega tool that solves it all and has the right AI within it will make my life easier. So I think the pattern will switch, especially in technology, towards consolidation, towards one platform vendor versus, if you look at the hiring talent acquisition ecosystem map, by the way, like MarTech and this, right? There are about hundreds of circles. You'll be surprised with the number of tools that do so many different points. And I think the one layer that cuts across it all, so I don't have to deal with everything, is something that they will be willing to pay for. And the days of going to an HRMS for just hiring, which is a high stakes problem, is also dead, because HRMS will always focus on the person and the hire, like the employee. Whereas hiring is a very different persona, which is external and candidate driven and compliance driven. So I think those are two aspects that I think will switch. Yesterday I was having a conversation. Somebody says, "Oh, it's a very smart thing you guys did, staying in technology and talent acquisition, right? Very few people have done that and would be ready for the AI wave with the kind of data you have." And I said, I don't know whether it is smart or stupid, because for a longest time, for almost 12 years, it felt like the fastest way to make money is to do a vendor service and provide a person. And the hardest way to make money was to do it through technology. Now suddenly technology is replacing people, technology is replacing vendors, technology is replacing, like everybody thinks technology is the way that is going to replace everything, which is not true. It will only create more jobs, but that's the assumption. So suddenly being a technology vendor means that your influence in the ecosystem has changed, because perception has changed. You are still the same, perception has changed. Right? So I think it's a great time to be a tech player versus being a service layer. right? Because I think the tech can do the service too, not just the tech.
So for folks in TA who are on the fence about building and buying AI and figuring stuff out, what advice would you have?
See, it's not about capability. If you know the space, you can build. The question is, everybody who builds thinks it's a workflow category. We're now implementing in about 60 countries for a mega organization, north of 100,000 people. And they were building, they made one attempt at building. They got to their first layer, it hit the privacy office, and the privacy office and the infosec office came and basically said two things. It said, listen, do you realize that we have a lawsuit risk, and we need to have, every enterprise is a data controller. This is an activity where you need a data processor. We want the risk to be with a third party firm. So like for example, if I look at background verification, right? I want to verify background. Why do I verify background? I want to verify because tomorrow the customers I serve know that this candidate was a fraud, was certified by a third party agency. Can I do background verification on my own using AI? Yes. Do I want to do it because of the effort, or do I want somebody else to have somebody else's neck to be on the line? So I think the question is not about building versus buying. The question is, what is the risk and who should hold it? You want to be able to go to a court of law tomorrow saying, there is no way there is any bias in my process. I'm using a third party product which is audited, which runs its own processes, which is used by so many companies. Not because I can't do what the hiring workflow is. So interestingly, while a lot of TA leaders are hands on with AI, they recognize this risk. And the folks who don't, I think one lawsuit will put their jobs on the line. So I don't think hiring is in a compliance category. It is not just hiring, boss. This is all compliance. If you are in government regulatory compliance, right, where your rules of engagement are decided by a third party authority who has the ability to put a 250 crore fine, 20 million fine, euro or US, or a fine connected to your top line, you want somebody else to own that risk with you. I think that's the biggest difference. And that's why I don't think it's build versus buy in our category. Can build? Yes, 100%. Should you? No. That's the difference, right? So I think not many people think from that point of view, and everybody thinks from their window. And then also, by the way, boss, I'll tell you, I've created a tool of my own, and I realized who's going to maintain it. Now, anytime somebody wants any change, they come to me, right? Now, my job becomes a maintenance person.
Code janitor.
Correct. Code janitor. Same thing. I love photography. Oh, who's going to sit and edit the photos to make them look good? Painful.
Now you can ask Claude Code to edit it for you.
Yeah. Cloud Code can now. I agree. Anyways.
Awesome. Great conversation. Loved having you over. Thanks, Sudarshan.
Hey, Prasanna. This is really awesome. I can't thank Upekkha enough. I think you guys are responsible for where we are, and so many inflection points, right? Whether it's the AI. And I love how you read the world and raise alarm and raise it before anybody even senses it, right? I think it helps keep everybody on track. And by the way, I think the fact that we are growing is because of the customer success foundations that we put while at Upekkha. So big fan for not just all of your thinking, but what you guys do and bring to the world. So thank you. And happy to, it was a really fun chat for me as well. Thank you.
So, folks, before you sign off, we have a couple of things. One is we have the Vibe Summit coming later this year, where we'll have a lot of enterprises coming in, sharing their actual problems that they want to get solved. A lot of startups and AI experts coming in and showing how those problems can be solved in production with production code. But Vibe Pilot will be much faster. And therefore get that into the hands of these enterprise leaders, get these enterprise leaders and these AI experts and entrepreneurs talking so that there are not so many layers of Chinese whispers in between them. So that'll be happening later this year, Vibe Summit. Keep looking for it. The second is that just like we worked with Sudarshan and RippleHire early on in their journey to help with a bunch of fundamentals, and just like over the last couple of years, we've been talking to all our founders about how to become AI native. We now have a program for helping founders transition from being a SaaS company whose multiples have gone down from 20x to, 4x, to becoming an AI native company and having a model which is more of a software factory inside you, so that the software that you're building is no longer the bottleneck, and you can look into the market, you can understand, hey, what is the real bottleneck that this market faces, which will require substantial domain expertise, and take that expertise and build it into a business that actually is far faster, far better, shooting for a much larger TAM, and all the while delivering incredible value to your existing and future customers. So if that is something of interest, reach out to us and we'll be happy to work with you.
Oh, the second piece I strongly endorse for sure. I think if you're a startup and you're not riding this curve, death is certain. It's no more about incremental. It's about life and death, right? I think that's the state it is. So you absolutely should, and especially in this, prioritization is the most critical thing. And I think you guys bring that clarity of thought far more in spades. So yeah, excited. I'm glad to hear about both, and good luck. And pretty sure more startups will be insanely successful as they run through this.
Amazing. Thank you. Thanks so much, Sudarshan. Talk
Thank
to you
you.
later.
Take
Bye.
care, Prasanna. Bye bye.